the phenomenon of actors becoming politicians is seen across the world, with many leveraging their public recognition, communication skills, and charisma to influence public policy and achieve electoral success. While most began as actors and transitioned to politics, some started as politicians and later pursued acting careers. And in that regard, you should have been at the Transcorp Hilton Abuja at the weekend at Opera Abuja's presentation of Ayo Ajayi's absolutely magical adaptation of Chinua Achebe's Arrow of God. That's where we saw Osita Chidoka strutting his stuff on stage, cool and composed against the bubbling backdrop of the pitches, tempo, meter and rhythms of the best Nigerian classical opera compositions, an image of the raconteur that will be forever etched in his legacy. His achievements as a former chief executive of the Federal Road Safety Corps and former aviation minister overshadowed for a moment by his role as a performer on a colourful operatic stage. So is he now one of those rare celeb politicos who has or is attempting to have credibility both on the political and the theatrical stage?
The shrine, our life. The earth was old, but the gods were young in our hearts. My father was Ezolo, the arrow of the gods. The eye through which you looked saw the world. Proud as the Iroko that would not bow to the wind. He walked as if the thunder served him. He said to me, "Go to the white man's church. What? Learn. Ulu fears no God made by hands. But who sends a child to wrestle with a spirit and expects the child to come back the same? A boy's heart is clay. Whichever hand molds it first, that hand own it." I sang their hymns. I bent my knees, and the God's arrow, once straight, turned in his flight.
Osita Chidoka in rare form. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the former Minister of Aviation and former governorship candidate in Anambra State, Chief Osita Chidoka, who is the founder of the Athena Center for Policy and Leadership, and rare form indeed. And I have to say, and I have to ask you this, are you an actor in your spare time, or is this more just a sort of passing fancy there?
Well, I have an artistic flair, and from secondary school, I remember in The Gods Are Not to Blame, I acted Odewale, the key actor. That was the last time I was on stage, and I didn't know how difficult it is to be on stage until I had to come back on Arrow of God. Arrow of God is a drama I hold so dear. And it was such that when we convinced the Abuja Memuso, which I'm a member of, that this year we are not going to do a foreign opera, we're going to do a Nigerian opera. And when they chose Arrow of God, it was like choosing my Bible. I think Arrow of God is the most phenomenal work done by Chinua Achebe. Even him agrees that of all his books, the one he will be caught reading is the Arrow of God. It's particularly interesting because it's a story that tells us about the abuse of power and warns us about hubris, about the limits of how a leader can behave. So when we agree on it this time around, I said, okay, I will be the narrator, the older Oduche. Now, trying to get my lines was a difficult job. I have profound new respect for artists and having to, I watched all the young ones. They were, in a few weeks, they were okay with their lines, but I battled with it. But I enjoyed it because it's that thing that I say, if you look at the geography of the world, all successful cities in the world have an opera house. They have a cultural center. They have something that binds them together in the arts, in music. And I think Nigeria should go that same way because, like I said, the geography of development and underdevelopment can be identified by opera houses and theaters. So I'm happy that the government has repaired the National Arts Theatre in Lagos. I'm happy the banks came together to support. I want to see more support for the arts because that's what really brings out the culture of a people.
Indeed.
And I think it's critical for our leaders and everybody to take the arts as arts is not profitable. It is something we do to bring out that part of us. When I was a student in Singapore, I joined the Singapore Symphony Orchestra, and it was heavily funded by the government. There were regular operatic shows all over Singapore. The same thing with the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. It's heavily supported by donors, companies, and people to bring to us again the things that bind us together, the stories that keep us going, the immortal words of artists that we all experience one way or another.
Indeed, and of course I was in the audience. I was very fortunate to have got a special invitation, so I had a very choice seat.
Oh wow!
And I was absolutely. I didn't know you were coming on stage. I mean, I was absolutely bowled over when the first person who emerged on stage was the narrator, of course, and there you were. And I thought, good God, that's Osita Chidoka. And of course, throughout the production, you were coming out intermittently. But you know that in your life, nothing is going to be impossible anymore. I mean, because given that you've been able to go from public servant to politician, chief executive of the FRSC, aviation minister, head of the Athena Center, and in the midst of all that, to the arts. That is why I say that in your life, nothing is going to be impossible anymore. You've given us a bit of a sense of how you sort of honed your stagecraft. It started when you were quite young.
Yes.
But that passion for the arts goes much deeper, doesn't it?
Yes, it's very, very deep. On my 40th birthday, then I was commercial. The celebration was Arrow of God on stage. That was the first time Arrow of God came on stage. The Achebe family graciously gave me the permission to show it on stage. So I got the Jos Repertory Theatre and the Abuja Music Society to come together in a collaboration that provided both music and art. And Hilton Hall then was filled up with people because I didn't want to celebrate with just a party. I wanted to share the depth of our literature, of our art to the people. And then, of course, after that, I took the Arrow of God to Bosi. We showed it.
That's where you come from.
That's where I come from,
right.
in Anambra State. So I think that the passion for art is that, I used to look at fiction. That, when you're reading fiction, you're wasting your time. But my former boss and my late mentor, Joe Madekwe, said, there is nothing like fiction. Fiction is actually people telling the stories of experiences of themselves or others through the mouths and body of characters. So really, it mimics life. So for me, fiction and music offers us opportunity to go to those timelessness that nature has for us. Just imagine that the music of Mozart from 17th century, 18th century is still valid today. Very valid. Yes. There
Beethoven,
are many things. Beethoven,
Mozart,
Dvorak, Bach. Listen to all their music. Today is still like it's timeless because they are the works of the spirit. They are the works of the human intuition. It is not the material things. All the palaces we built have all gone, we don't know where they are today. But the music, the art is still living here.
That's a very, very important point. And given that you've kind of brought out this internal vision that you articulated so well here, that drives you towards the arts. I mean, in that sense, you're a very prominent figure. You're well known across Nigeria. You're a former minister. To have seen you on stage and now see you sitting here talking about that stage, you've become a sort of poster boy for Opera Abuja, haven't you?
One of the unintended consequences. But
indeed.
But it is because we shouldn't take ourselves too seriously in Nigeria. We're such an interesting country. Our leaders sometimes act too serious, in my view. We have our soft power is the biggest thing we have out of Nigeria. Our soft power is so strong that you are in a car in Atlanta, in Washington, D.C., in New York, in Nairobi, and in Rwanda, and the drivers are playing Nigerian music. They are saying to you, Igwe from Nollywood movies. Our movies, our music, our clothes, the way we laugh at ourselves. We have something that is truly Nigerian. And it is so true Nigerian that if you look, it is no coincidence that the world's greatest arts from Black Africa, whether it is the Buku pottery, whether it is the Nok theater, the knock artifacts that we have in the north. Between the River Niger and the River Benue seems to be a conglomeration of artistic people. So today we are not surprised that we have Burna Boy, we have Flavor, we have Chimamanda Adichie, we have various writers, pushing that narrative that Nigeria is truly an interesting country, that in our diversity there is something for us to learn and pass on to the world.
So do you see yourself inspiring a new wave of, let me call it, artistic politicians in Nigeria?
Well, I hope it happens, and more important is to know that our older leaders, Dr. Azikiwe, Kwame Nkrumah, Leopold Sédar Senghor, we're all poets, we're all writers.
Senghor was brilliant,
brilliant, yes.
The father of negritude.
Negritude, you know. So when he looks at the river scene and thinks about all that is happening to his people, through his literature, he spoke to the hearts of Africans.
Indeed.
So many of our writers, whether you think about Ngugi wa Thiong'o from Kenya, whether you think about Wole Soyinka, Chinua Achebe, they framed the narrative of post-independence Nigeria. And our leaders at that time saw in them a veritable weapon to push the agenda of a new Africa.
They evinced the philosophy that guided the movement towards independence and post-independence. Now let's turn, because obviously, as I said, you wear many hats, but let's turn to one hat that you're very well known for, which is sort of politics, the assessment of the mood of the country, insecurity and so on. I wonder what your assessment is in the context of the current state of Nigeria today, that General Christopher Musa was confirmed by the Senate as the new Minister of Defense this evening.
Yes. And I think he came to wide acclaim. That tells you that Nigerians, know who is who. Most people, from the comments I've read on social media, people are very happy. But, I have a small problem with the approach the president has taken. So he has said boots on ground, declaring an emergency, 20,000 more policemen, soldiers, 50,000 or something, new soldiers to be recruited, NYC camps to be used. But I think that is a knee-jerk reaction. I don't think Nigeria's war with terrorism has to do with more police or more soldiers. I think this is the time. We've been on this war since 2008 with Boko Haram. And it is a shame that we have not gone to produce special forces against terrorism. When Colombia faced this problem, they brought about the Jungler, a specialized force trained by SAS and supported by the Navy SEALs in America. They had helicopters, they had their own intelligence system.
And they are a strike force that can go in there and do the job.
So we need a forest force. We don't need more soldiers or police, because if you look at the police budget of 2025, it's over 1.2 trillion, of which about 1.1 is for salaries. Only 97 billion or thereabout is for overhead, the money that makes police work. Of this, 27 billion was dedicated for fueling. If you divide that by all the fuel stations, police stations in Nigeria, that's roughly about 5 to 6 liters every day for each station. So it won't work. The police are under-resourced. So if you look at the general police budget and look at the money for training, the total Nigerian police budget is somewhere around $900 million, $800 and something million. In South Africa, the budget is $6.5 billion US. So the police is not well resourced in Nigeria. And I have a simple solution to resourcing the Nigerian police. Let the federal government pay the salaries, and let the state government make direct appropriations for state police, for the police force operational day-to-day costs.
In other words, the ones that are assigned to their state.
The ones that are assigned to their state. So let's average it that the 36 states on average puts 5 billion naira for the police. That's already 180 billion. Provided to the 97 the federal government has, we're somewhere around 300 and something. If you look at Lagos State, who can do maybe 20 billion or 30. You look at Rivers, Akwa Ibom. So averagely, I think that what we need now is, in this state of emergency, police stations should get direct appropriations from states. That so-called security vote, we should send it to help police to have 2 vehicles in the police station, solar panels, electricity, paper and pen to even write statements, and more importantly, keep them mobile on the road.
So, but is that in addition to
Yes.
plans to start sort of state police? In
So
other words,
state police is coming after a constitutional amendment.
right, and
Here
it will
we
take
are
a bit of
today.
time.
Where we are today
Yeah.
now is that people are dying. People are being killed. 20,000 more policemen to the 350,000 reduces the cost per police from about 2-point-something million based on our budget, which is roughly like $2,000. If you look at the cost per police. Now, if you take it down to what other countries are budgeting per police, we're talking $20-something thousand, $30-something thousand per policeman. So where we are today is that I think we need a special force, taken from DSS, Army, police, the best. And we need to have not more than 1,000 people, less than, not like the old mobile police that we destroyed. This time around, their job is to go in like the junglers in Colombia, take out the people wherever they are, have their own helicopter, their own firing service, their aviation service, have their own self-contained system, and get SAS, Navy SEALs, or Israel, Syed, Maktal to train them, not more than 500 to 800 people. And they are taken not by quota system, but by capability.
Indeed.
We must have an elitism of ability. With that kind of force, these terrorists cannot sit in televisions and messages on social media and abuse the country. The country will be able to respond fiercely against terror.
I think that's a very, very good idea.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know whether somebody else had thought about it in the past, but I think the way that you articulated it,
Yes.
because every country, I mean, it doesn't matter what, the Americans have it, the
Yes,
British
the
have
British,
it,
yes.
the Europeans,
Yes,
the
and
Latin
they have
Americans.
dedicated funding. So it's
Yeah.
not this funding of $6,000, 6,000 naira per police for training. No, they are training every day. They are ready every day for battle. So when Israel is in danger, they
Yeah.
send the Syed Maktal.
Whenever a threat comes up,
they
go and
move
neutralize
the threat.
Very important
And
point.
the Colombian junglers is a very good example. I think Nigeria should copy it. It's not a time for more police until we find dedicated funding for police.
Well,
But
I don't think there's anything wrong with having, in the medium to long term, recruitment plans to better equip the police, to expand the number of police. But I do agree with you that in the immediate term,
Yes.
we need something like that.
So my problem is, if you add more
Briefly, because
police,
we've got
yes.
literally 30 seconds.
Okay, if you add more policemen and you don't increase the budgeting, then they are lame ducks. So what we need to do now is to find new sources of funding for the police and improve that funding, and then we can expand the numbers as we go. But right now, we need a dedicated force, and I think the president will do the Nigeria a good. I mean, it's sad that all the presidents before him didn't do it, but now we should do it, have a special force against terror, and see to it that we can combat it, efficiently and effectively.
Very good idea. Chief Osita Chidoka, thank you very much indeed.
My
and
pleasure.
of course, he is a former Minister of Aviation and the founder of the Athena Center for Leadership and Policy. Thank you very much indeed.
And now an aspiring actor.
Yeah. Well, I'd say you've gone beyond aspiring. I mean, you're actually performing.